You are listening to Party Nerds Radio.
The end of Endgame, when we all had this theory that Captain Rogers, Captain America himself, had pretty much fucked up the timeline by resetting everything back in its own place by putting the Infinity Stones back where they belong. But ultimately, it was the drop of the Cosmic Cube where Loki used the Space Stone, went back to the TVA, and they noticed that a variant was loose at that time. Because ultimately, it wasn't a death that was going to occur at that time that would spiral this whole big effect of what we saw in this Loki series. And I gotta say that within these 6 episodes, it may have been slow to gravitate in order to make the storyline that much more pure, but the ending and the reveal of the next big bag, Kang the Conqueror, only solidifies that time, because it was fucked with in the first place, had to have a point of being in order to introduce the multiverse, in order to spiral in the effect that variants do exist. Carbon copies, mirror images, parallel universes are now in play in the MCU. And the thing is, it's only going to get further from here. So first, you have to realize that the introduction of Kang as a character, as one of the most campy, silly, troubling, vicious enemies within the within Marvel Comics, has been in play probably for a very long time. I, for the most part, have been predicting his introduction for a while now.
Hopefully, we get our next villain basically for hopefully for years to come, of Kang the Conqueror taking over the role of Thanos, who was no longer with us. Praise be the dead. You know what I'm saying? He got dusted twice, chopped his head off. They did a couple things to my man.
With this whole thing happening of where somebody had to be in control. Okay, so the sacred timeline only proved that everything that had happened in the MCU up to this point, where there was violence, deaths, cataclysmic events, all that had to occur as a necessary evil in order for the timeline to stay the way that it does. Because Kang was always 7 steps ahead and he knew exactly how everything was going to go. Ultimately, a ripple effect happened. We don't know where that ripple effect surfaced, but you saw it in that last episode where he paused for a second at the desk and he was looking around like, well, I kind of knew what was going to happen up to this point, but now 8 to 10 seconds, I might be off a little bit. Now, who knows what that episode may have been? It may have the Nexus event that happened in WandaVision with Wanda, with the Scarlet Witch. Who knows? Something may have occurred to where it flipped off in a little bit of misplacement, per se, and ultimately led to Kang's demise. But the thing is that really Kang? Because Kang has multiple variants of himself. He can be known as Iron Lad. He can be known as Immortus. He can be known as Kang the Conqueror. He can be known as Ramatut. He can be known as Scarlet Centurion. There's so many versions of Kang that it's going to be hard to displace. But this leads into the multiverse as a whole. Variants of possibly yourself in parallel dimensions where you can all meet, and it just, as they've said, leads to a multiversal war. And what other characters have been, I guess, interrupted by this? So when we look at it, Kang is going to play in the effect where the Kang that we met in the Loki series that was trying to keep everything in control, this Kang does not want to keep everything in control at all. For the most part, he's going to want to conquer the timeline. Every single person and how they enrich their lives is going to be controlled by him. So if this leads to what we already know, maybe the possibility of 3 Spider-Mans in the next coming movie, maybe the possibility of Doctor Strange fighting for his life because so many branches in the sacred timeline have opened. If it leads to the Eternals finally coming out of hiding because some shit that went down. It could lead to mutants, beings that are born with the abilities themselves, which are variants of the human beings that are here on Earth. Everything is a variant, and everything is in play at this moment. So I only see this getting not as confusing as you think, but better, because you're going to see a lot of characters that you've never seen before, or a lot of characters that a lot of us comic readers have been looking forward to for a very long time. But this is Grandmaster Faqs. Appreciate you guys. You can check us out, Party Nerds, on IG, Twitter, and Facebook. Me, Grandmaster Faqs, on IG and Twitter. Party Nerds, go.
Party nerds, 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 party nerds.